This is Barry Heads with Sharp Counsel. Thanks for tuning in. We are in the third part of our series. The series is titled Stress is an Opportunity for Growth. So we'll get through this sharp snippet relatively quickly. We'll basically talk about in part 3 of the series is how to lower stress. I'll say that again, how we lower stress. We'll talk about that in the third part of this series. So as I did in the first two parts of the series, I want to tell you a quick story about Rabbi Dr. Abraham Twerksey. This man was a well-known rabbi in the 20th century, and he used to tell this story about lobsters in his lectures. And I call it the lobster story. So I'll go ahead and tell you. So Dr. Twerksey was in a doctor's office, and he was sitting down and he was waiting for his name to be called. And he opened up a magazine and started reading an article. And the article was on lobsters. That was the topic. Now, he wasn't enthused about reading about lobsters, but the article went on to talk about how lobsters grow, and that interested him. So he kept reading. And what the article went on to say is that a lobster has a soft, mushy body. That's the average body of a lobster, soft and mushy. Now, at the same time, it has an outer shell that's hard and rigid, and it protects it. The shell protects the lobster from predators. Okay. It's used as a protection mechanism. So as the article went on to talk about the growth of a lobster, it said the following. When a lobster finds its time to grow, what it does is go under a rock to protect itself from predators. It struggles to get out of its old small shell, and that struggle could take hours sometimes. And once it's disengaged from that outer shell, that old outer shell, and it extracts the body from it, it begins to grow a new, hard, rigid outer shell. Once that shell has completed in its growth, what the lobster does is removes itself from under a rock and it goes back out into the wild. And this process is completed ongoing throughout the lobster's life. So this is a cyclical process throughout the lobster's lifetime. The stimulus for the lobster to grow, which means to go under the rock, cast off its own shell and grow a new one, is discomfort. So whenever the lobster feels uncomfortable, and that comes about by having a small, tight shell that it's outgrown, whenever the lobster feels uncomfortable, it goes under the rock, it waits patiently, casts off the old shell, and creates something new. Okay. And this is what we can see. This cyclical process is what we can see in leadership, whether in our personal life or our business life, when we're changing jobs, when we're want to start a new business, or when we want to grow a nonprofit, we see this process occur, and we can use this lobster as a metaphor for our growth in our life. I want to start by saying this. It's very challenging to be a leadership. Leadership is a very challenging task. Very few of us will do extraordinarily well under constant stress. It's just the way life is. Very few of us, if not any of us, will do very well under constant stress. I'm talking about stress without breaks over months and months or years and years. It's very challenging. So I want to give you 4 tips today on how we can lower stress. The first is to exercise, something I enjoy doing. Not all the time, but sometimes. It's become a habit for me. I feel weird if I don't exercise. There's something called runner's high. It's when you take off and run. Maybe some long distance runners can explain it better than me. It's when you take off and run, you hit a point of exhaustion, you continue to push through that point of exhaustion, and then there's this feeling of euphoria and elation, and the body actually becomes stronger. You can run faster. You can run smoother. It's quite a euphoric feeling. So exercise, I'd tell you all to run. Not only do you get runner's high, it clears the mind. You feel better about yourself, and you also feel more self-confident. You've self-disciplined yourself. Your body's stronger. Your body even looks better. So exercise, that's number 1. Number 2 is meditation. Again, just like running, it clears the mind. It makes us more creative. And so many well-known individuals, whether that's high-performing athletes, celebrities, or highly ranking business people, talk about the effects of meditation on clearing the mind, making them more peaceful, and making them more creative. You can read more about this in Ray Dalio's book called Principles. I know many of you have heard of Ray Dalio. He led Bridgewater and Associates, and they we're worth probably billions and billions of dollars. Thirdly, I want to talk about breathing and healthy eating. Breathing is so important. Some of us hold our breath and it creates tightness and stress, et cetera, et cetera. But I also want to talk about healthy eating. I'm not a doctor, but I will say fruits, vegetables, water, and fish in moderation can do wonders for you. Fruits, vegetables, water, and fish. And the fourth tip I want to give you on lowering stress is sleep. Some of us just need to renew our bodies and our minds through rest. Getting a good night's sleep will prevent some of us from messing up an upcoming deal or embarrassing ourselves by exploding at some of our employees or our peers or our friends. So get some sleep, rest that body, rest your mind. In the beginning of 2022, I got this message. For about 5 or 6 days, I started January 10th of 2022. About 5 or 6 days after that, I just rested. For the majority of the day, for the 24-hour day cycle, I stayed in the bed. I listened to my body. I just stayed in the bed. I wasn't depressed. No, I wasn't depressed. But I listened to my body. It needed rest. So I say this to you as I close once again. Manage your stress, or soon, one day you'll find out that it'll manage you.